Train by day, Kyle Wigington podcast by night, all day.
Do you edit it?
Yeah. Oh, you mean like editing things out you say?
Yeah.
Oh, are you scared you're going to say something crazy?
No, just because, well, maybe, but exactly.
So, what's your last name, Heidi? All I know is Heidi Ho Ho.
Heidi Ho Ho. Well, don't print it anywhere, though.
Okay, yeah.
But it's...
You're from Louisiana?
No, I'm from Oregon.
Oh, it sounds like a very Louisiana last name,
Really?
right?
It's
yeah.
Yugoslavian.
Oh.
I don't know.
I just hear all these weird last names in New Orleans, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're definitely from here.
Are you from here?
No, I'm from Arkansas originally.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Where in Arkansas?
Do you know anything about Arkansas? Okay, do you know where Tennessee is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where Memphis is? Memphis, Tennessee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you go right across the border into Arkansas, there's a place called Jonesboro.
Okay.
Okay, that's a pretty big city, but there's a small town of about 2,000 people that's outside of Jonesboro. It's called Harrisburg. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you leave?
Right after high school. Yeah. I went to Tennessee, played basketball at college, and then didn't want to go back.
What school?
It was Bethel University now. It was Bethel College back then. Yeah. But, yeah, and after I left, that's why there's a lot of people from small towns like that. They never end up getting away. They never end up escaping. And I think it's because they just didn't run.
Yeah.
Because like, if you grow up in a small town of 2,000 people, you feel like that's your entire world. But then when you just run, like you're scared to death. I was scared to death whenever I first left the town. But once I was gone and got comfortable and knew that I could like stand on my own feet, I was like, fuck that place.
Yeah. Do you think it helped that you left right after high school instead of like waiting?
Yeah, I think it helped a lot because whenever I did go back, so I transferred back to Arkansas after 2 years at Bethel. I finished up at Arkansas State University, which is Jonesboro, so it's right outside the town that I grew up in. And yeah, I mean, it was cool to like see everyone again, but at the same time, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't I can't die in this fucking town.
That's what happens once you leave.
Yeah.
Like I didn't leave Oregon for a long time, but once I did, I came back. I was like, I'm never living here again.
No, yeah. And what do you think that was? You think it was the people, or you think just the fact that there was so much unexplored territory out there?
Yeah, both. I think there's like so much world. I'm like, I've lived in Oregon so long, but also, I mean, there's things I don't like about Oregon. I guess there's things I wouldn't like about anywhere, but variety is fun. Mm-hmm. And it's good to just see like different, kind of open your mind, meet different types of people, have new experiences, because I feel like it can be kind of just safe to stay in the same place.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's why a lot of people never leave. Because they're comfortable with that and they don't want to, well, they fear what's the unknown, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of the problems with this world. When we don't understand something, we immediately go, no.
Yeah.
That's why I fear the day that aliens actually come here.
I know. What if they're all cute and friendly?
And we're going to be like, I don't fucking know what you are. Kill them now. Shoot them. I can see that happening.
I know. It's very human.
Yeah.
Very human of us.
And like, we just don't think through the what we're doing. Because I mean, at the same time, it's like, they fucking flew here, okay? They clearly have better technology than we do. And we're going to fucking fight them? Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll just be like, in case there's a chance they're bad, we'll just kill them just in case. And yeah.
They'll end up shutting the nukes down on the way there. And they're like, oh, you motherfuckers.
Uh-huh. Aliens just want to be our friends. Maybe they're not, but
I don't know.
I don't see why. Humans are pretty hostile. Like, hopefully aliens aren't as bad.
Well, that's like one of the arguments is like why we shouldn't get off this planet. It's because like we're not mature.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if like and it's because I've heard all the arguments. I love talking about weird shit like this. So the arguments for like aliens coming here, one is, you know, they're looking for a planet to expand on. So they come here and they fucking kill us all, take the planet over. Or two, they're literally just looking for more intelligent life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like a 50-50 shot on that one. Like, you don't really know.
I know. And if they're more evolved than us, which they probably would be if they're coming here, like you said, then hopefully they're more evolved, like in their minds, and aren't just heartless. Yeah.
So if you were a more evolved alien and you went to a planet full of monkeys, how would you handle that situation?
I don't know. I would want to see if we could be friends, I guess.
So would you even reveal yourself?
Oh, yeah, I would want to. Maybe not at first, though.
Right, you got to monitor them for a while.
Though. Yeah. Yeah. See if it's a threat. Like, but I don't know. I just want to be friends with people.
Yeah, the same here. I think the average person just wants to be friends with everyone around them, and they want to meet people and they want to learn, explore. But there are some psychopaths that are in control, and unfortunately, those psychopaths are the ones that pull the trigger.
Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing is that people. It's not only like, oh, they might be a threat to us physically or something, but it could be a threat to the controller, like the status quo.
Right.
And so, humanity or the people in charge, they don't want that.
Yeah, that's why I tell everyone, I'm like, think before you just follow an order blindly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the people that are giving you the orders, like, they might just be a fucking...
Ulterior motives.
Yeah, it's like, why are they not carrying out the order?
It's kind of insane, all this stuff that we're just taught, and we grow up in it, so it's truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then now people are like, wait, like the idea of unlearning things.
Right.
Like, what do I actually think and believe, and what is it just been ingrained in me for so long?
So what do you think and believe?
I'm figuring that out now. But like one thing for me is that I grew up my parents were very religious. I was like in the church from very young. Mm-hmm. So all of that, like the idea of hell and demons and things was very much real to me because that was what I was taught like as a very young child. And I remember having this thought when I was 6 years old, like, what if this isn't real? And I'd be like, that'd be crazy.
That's 6 years old.
Yeah. But then it took me years to get out of it. And I still like have trauma from like a fear of hell and all of that.
So like, did they like scorn you or something whenever you were asking those kind of questions?
I guess so. It was more just like there wasn't an option to even
think outside the box.
Yeah. It's weird because I'll talk about to my parents about it now, and they're more open. But as a child, I think I was just like very afraid of upsetting people or getting in trouble. So I just kind of kept my mouth shut, and I was like, I'll just wait till I graduate or till my parents die. And then I was like, wait, that's no way to live.
And how were you when you had that realization?
That's no way to live.
Yeah.
Or honestly, I feel like comedy is one way that I've sort of come out into being myself. I think I'm still in that process. But I moved out of from my parents when I was like 17 or 18 too, after high school. Mm-hmm. So that started all that. But I think it took me a long time because I wasn't really ready for the world. So I kind of got myself into more messy situations.
I think a lot of like the creatives that I bump into, they're the same way. Like the reason they end up going into the creative field is because they might have tried to do the 9-to-5 situation, and they look around, they realize the world's a piece of shit. So then they're like, oh God, I gotta mask this. So they start masking it with like substances, and then it ends up taking their life to a weird spin. But from that, they end up pulling it out if they can get out of that rut, and they do things like get on stage and talk about it. Yeah,
totally. That's so true. Substances, because I think I remember just putting myself in a box basically. Mm-hmm. And I've done these like meditations where you kind of visit your inner child or something. So I'll have memories of kind of probably where that started. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like learning how to come out, but still I'm just learning, but it feels good. And definitely being on stage is one way to actually say whatever I feel and not be censored for the most part.
I love that. I love meditation too. I meditate all the time.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this once, I think when I met you.
Did we? Oh, we were outside.
We're talking about some weird stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I weird stuff's my thing.
Yeah, I like weird stuff too. I'm really into. I think that's what's fun is because I was very religious, or I was raised religiously anyway. But then I kind of was like, fuck religion, fuck all of that. I'm nihilistic, something like that. I don't know. And then so I've kind of come back around to spirituality, but from my own terms, like in my own way to what makes sense for me.
Yeah.
But I think being open to that idea very young kind of helps me to get in to that otherworldly kind of vibe.
Yeah, and it's so I still like am friends with like some people back home. We have a group thread, like a lot of my friends from growing up. But one of the things that separated all of us in high school and middle school was the fact that like we all grew up religious, but I always questioned everything because like none of it made sense to me. I'm like, is this really like the world we live in, where a guy can get nailed to a cross and die and then come back to life? And they were like, you just gotta believe.
Is this the world we live in?
I was like, I don't just believe, like I want to understand.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that they were just willing to believe these things, blew my mind. So I grew up in a religious household, religious community, but I wasn't that at all. So it kind of like made me an outcast from day one. But I think that also me having that mentality has led me to pursue the things that I do. So, I mean, now I have like such a deeper understanding of what religion is, and the fact that like literally all the religions in the world are saying the same fucking thing. Mm-hmm. So no matter like how you went about getting to the place that you're at right now with the spirituality and stuff, it's the same thing as religion. It's just that you probably have a deeper understanding now because you explored other outlets. Like anytime you're like just fed something from day one, you go with that. I think that's a problem in my book.
Yeah, it's such a problem. That's why parents are just, they can have the best intentions, but they're screwing everyone up.
Well, I mean,
they're society too.
They're kids too when you think about it. The day that I realized that, I was actually on mushrooms. And I was like meditating on like basically on the inner self of mine. And I come across this like memory of my parents, and I was like, fuck, dude, they were just trying to figure this shit out too. And like whenever I like had that realization, I called them both, and I was like, I just want to let you guys know I love you. Oh. Yeah, because I mean, I think as kids growing up, we look at our parents like they have all the answers, and it's like, nah, man, they're trying to figure this fucking place out too.
I know they're humans, but we treat them like there should be some other level. I'm just like, I didn't ask to be here. You made me be here, so you should know everything. And it makes sense. Like, whenever you're growing up, like, you look to them for everything. So it makes sense that you look to them for all the answers. Yeah. And they just have so much control and, like, authority over you and your life. Like, they're your source of being alive when you're really young, so you kind of have to care about what they think. But I guess that's something else to unlearn, is, like, needing their validation. Yeah. And everything. So what kind of meditations do you like? Well, so I'm not like, I don't really, I studied, so the way I got into meditation was someone walked in one day into the bar. I'm talking about like chakras. And I didn't know anything about them then, but I was like, I think they like, relate to the endocrine system. And the guy was like, huh. And he like teaches yoga. So he's like, I got a book for you. And he goes home and gets this book, and he comes back and hands it to me. He's like, Science of Yoga. That's what the book's called, Science of Yoga. And he's like, read this. And I was like, I don't really read. But I picked that book up like that afternoon, and I couldn't put it down. Like that book was the most amazing thing I've ever read. But then after I finished the book, I couldn't remember it. It was nuts. It was what? Like, yeah, I know. It was crazy. But yeah, I gave it back to him, and then my life just like flipped. For some reason, I would go out and I would meditate every afternoon. I really had no like training or anything on it, but I also like took an interest in it then. So I don't really know like the names for all this stuff, but one of the things I do is I go out and I'll do something I call resonance meditation, where I'll be meditating in the midday sun. And the reason I do this is because it makes me feel good for one, but when I started looking it up, I noticed that if you look at any Buddha statues, he has like round things on his head. Have you ever seen those? Maybe. Okay, there's like little dots all over his head. Okay, and if you look the story up, those are actually snails. Oh. Yeah, because as the story goes, Buddha was meditating in the sun, and the snails crawled up his body and got on his head to protect his head from the radiation. That's amazing. Yeah, but I think those statues have the snails on the head so that we question it. We go, maybe I should be meditating in the sunlight. So every day, whenever I leave here, I'll go home. Now I'll get on the rooftop and I'll meditate midday sun. And I'll usually throw my headphones in, and I'll do a thing called box breathing. But you know box breathing? Yeah. So 4 seconds in breath, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out 4 seconds, and then go breathless for 4 seconds, box breathing. And then on the out breath, I will hum. Oh. Yeah, and so a lot of times I'll just hum the Om mantra. And then it like, in my opinion, and this could be wrong, but I think that it like, whenever you hum the Om, it like jars the pineal gland. Oh. So it stimulates that. So if you can make your heart and your brain oscillate at the same frequency, and then stimulate yourself with the Om chants, then you can like reach a certain state of consciousness that you wouldn't be able to reach just by straight meditating. That's so interesting. I haven't tried. I've definitely liked the humming or the chant. I've only done that in like yoga classes, I think. Yeah. But I always definitely feel different. Yeah. Well, you got to think about like which you are. You're just
being of energy. You're just a density of energy right now sitting in a chair. So if you start vibrating that energy at a certain frequency, then it makes sense that you're going to like oscillate with the energy around you.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I've had so many amazing, crazy kind of experiences on
one.
meditation.
Dude,
but
I love these.
yeah, well, I just feel like but I'm so lazy to actually do it. But when I do it, it's so rewarding.
So for you, it's a task to meditate?
Sometimes, like I try to meditate every day, at least like for 10 minutes, do something. But I like doing yoga nidra, which is something I've had more like trippy things. Or I'll do like
what do you
some
do in
chakra
yoga nidra?
meditation. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of the word, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know any of that.
Oh yeah, it just means like sleep yoga, I think. So the idea is that you are asleep but conscious, or it's kind of like a waking dream. You get into this state. Like they start with a body scan usually, and then they do this breathing thing where you like count backwards your breaths, and then
a body scan. What is that?
Like your right hand thumb. Draw your attention to your right forefinger, or your middle finger. That always, I think it helps you relax a lot, and it feels amazing. Like I'm just laying still, but I feel like I'm getting a massage. Yeah, because I think you just like relax. Like they'll do your brain. I've done ones where they're like your right kidney, but then there's this thing where you like bring on different sensations of like cold and hot, or pain and pleasure, and lightness and heaviness, and then they can go into visualizations. There's a lot of different ones, but I've had really interesting experiences where it's like I'm awake but I'm asleep, and my body feels wild, like in a good way.
Yeah, I mean we have so much more control over these bodies than we actually think we do.
Yeah,
and being raised in a religion where you look to the outside for a God, you tend to look to the outside for everything. But when you actually start doing stuff like this, you're actually turning inward toward yourself. So whenever you're doing those like feel your right thumb things, they're basically taking your consciousness and they're projecting it into your body. Oh. Yeah. So if you're following like your thumb up your arm and like going to you're basically taking that point of consciousness that you're looking at me right now. So now I'm your point of consciousness. But if you go inside of yourself, that's where your point of consciousness is going. So that's when you have these trippy experiences, just because you're looking inside of yourself.
I never thought of it that way, but that's a really cool way of putting it. It's sort of like, because I feel like it's like God is whatever, but like also like I'm God, or like we all are. Yeah. It kind of makes sense in that way.
As above, so below.
Yeah. I mean, half the time I'm like, this is so cool, and I've really resonated. The other half the time I'm like, life sucks so much, and I don't believe in anything.
So for me, like meditation, when I started off in the beginning, it was a chore. Like, it was like, oh, fuck, I gotta meditate. But now I like look forward to it. Like I can reach these like states of bliss now, and it's like pleasure. Like whenever I'm meditating. So I mean, I love it every day. Sometimes I'll be out there for 2-3 hours. That's
ideal, I think.
Yeah, like if I hit that rhythm and a certain brainwave or something, I'm just like fucking just blissed out there on the rooftop.
It's like productive in a weird way. Or it's not like productive, but I feel like it has so many benefits.
Well, I think it is productive too. Especially, so you've studied like some of the other types of meditation, Kundalini yoga.
I haven't tried that. I want to.
So that was actually what I was doing. That was like the method of yoga that I stumbled into first. And so I just started going that direction. Didn't have a clue, what I was doing or anything. But yeah, I mean, that's that right there is probably the reason that I love meditating so much.
That's cool. So is that with movement then? So you're actually doing it?
No. So for me, it's all breathing stuff. So like I said, it's about getting your brain and your heart rate in to oscillate at the same frequency so that you're resonating, your entire body's resonating. And then you can throw the chants on top of that. But my understanding of this, and there's probably people out there that disagree with this, but when you're practicing yoga, the science of yoga, not just like going out and doing yoga in a class, the Western yoga, but if you're practicing the actual science of yoga, the key to all of it is to first purify the body. You purify the body with food, first of all. Then you purify the mind, and that could also be purifying the body. So you need to work from the chakras from the base up. So first thing you do is get your sexual organs. Or no, first thing you do is you get grounded. So you get grounded and you're safe, and that's the first chakra. That's the safety chakra. Then you go to the sexual chakra. So when you have that under control, which I think a lot of people don't have that under control at all. You know, they just try to like sleep around with everyone they come in contact with, and they're just not in control of themselves. Get that one under control. Then you got to get your diet under control. The next one up. You get your diet under control, then you can move into the heart. And that's where a lot of people hold their childhood traumas and things. So you release those, then you go to speaking your truth and your voice. Then you go on up to the third eye chakra, where you can see everything. And then last but not least, you got the crown. So my thing is, whenever you get up to the crown chakra, you know, they say it's like the 1,000-petal lotus. Okay, so you have a 1,000-petal lotus. Imagine this, 1,000-petal lotus blooming out of your head. You go outside and you meditate in the sunlight. There are these photons that are hitting you from the sun always. But most of the time when they're hitting you, you're not still. So when they're hitting you, they're passing through your body, or they're just like colliding off of your energy and like going somewhere else. But Newton's laws of motion, they say that if an object is still and another object bumps into it, then it creates motion, right? Okay, the energy transfer. So if you can still your mind and you have the crown chakra open, then when those photons hit you, it's almost like a data transfer.
This is so interesting. Now I'm like re-inspired to get back on my like dedication to meditation.
I tell everyone that it changed my life. Like I was also doing I was heavy into like drinking and stuff. And then one day I just started meditating, and it was that guy giving me that fucking book.
So that's where it started. Well, you were interested because you were talking about chakras. Yeah,
I've always been interested in the body, and well, I'm interested in everything. So I mean, anytime it comes to knowledge, like I crave it. Like if it's something new and interesting that I don't know, like I think one time I just stumbled into the fact that the chakras might relate to the endocrine glands, and I don't even know where it was at, but for some reason that stuck in my head. So when that guy came in and was talking about chakras, I was like, oh, I heard this fun fact.
What's endocrine system?
It's your emotional system, your hormone system. So it makes sense.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah. Like all that stuff is connected. We're all just using different words to describe it.
Yeah, the chakras, it like seems weird, but then it's like, why do people say heartbreak? It's because your heart like hurts when you feel sad, or like,
and all it is
your gut.
Well, and if you start breaking down the dimensions of it too, you know, the heart is just a lower density of energy. But whenever you start moving up the dimension scale, then you're just getting in like less and less dense forms of energy. So it makes sense that that the heart would be a center, and that whatever fluid or whatever hormones affect the heart would be your next level up. And then you go up one more, and it's the energy that is your body or your soul, the electrical signals that are running through the body. So if you can start moving all that stuff in the same pattern, then it makes sense that your mind's gonna work better. Yeah, our bodies are wild. They are, dude.
What was I just reading? It was saying like in Jesus times or whatever, they would think phones are miracles,
right?
But now it's reality. So then the idea is like, what now would we consider be a miracle that's reality? We just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's along the same lines. It's magic, right? So like magic, that would be magic for them. But so are you familiar with alchemy?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, so the alchemical symbols that they draw like on the table, I've always like wondered, you know, what those were. I was like, how do those work? Like, what's the science behind this? And I didn't understand it at the time, so I was like, magic's nothing. Alchemy's nothing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The same way with astrology. You know, a lot of people look at astrology and astronomy, and they're like, oh, it's pseudoscience, so they call it. And it's like, no, the only reason it's pseudoscience is because you don't understand it yet. Like, one day, all this stuff, we're going to realize that all this stuff is not pseudoscience, that someone who invented it had a better understanding of it than you did. So it's the same way with magic. I think magic is real, but Hollywood has just made us think that magic is something that's like fake. But I think it's real if you understand the science behind it. It's just a really high form of science. So along with the alchemy symbols, if you look at how the earth travels through space, right? So the earth is like third dimension, and it travels through the fourth dimension, which is time. Okay? So if you take a two-dimensional image, which is like this alchemical symbol, and you extrude it through time, then you have a vessel that can store energy. Does that make sense?
The two-dimensional thing.
Okay. So if you take a flat piece of paper and you draw an alchemical symbol on it, that's your two-dimensional symbol that you're like, how does this store energy? Like, what does this do? But when you actually factor in or take into account the fact that we're moving through time, whichever direction that would be, you know?
Yeah.
But like the Earth is moving a direction. So when the Earth is moving a direction, that's the flow of energy and the flow of time passing through us always. So if you start funneling it with the two-dimensional object, no?
No, that wasn't I'm trying to understand it.
Right.
But I think a lot of things, I need like the first thing, and then, like a month later, I'll hear something else about it, and then it will start clicking. Yeah. But, because a lot of this stuff is complicated.
Well, yeah, it has to build. Like, if you told me this shit like 10 years ago, before I like had the base knowledge of it, I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that's pseudoscience.
That's pseudoscience. Yeah. But it's cool how you work in science with it.
Oh, yeah.
And with this, because they are, my dad's like a science teacher, so he's kind of a science nerd.
Oh, he's going to love this then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's going to be like, this guy's totally wrong.
No, but my dad is like interesting. I feel like I can talk to him about weird stuff like that because he's a pretty strange person. But yeah, I remember reading The Time Machine when I was a little kid, and then they were like, the fourth dimension is time. And I was like, what? Yeah. But it's just weird to think about that way. So is your dad an open-minded scientist? Is he one of the new like closed-minded scientists, which makes no sense? No, he is very religious, but he's very open-minded, I would say. I think he can connect, like he believes in like Jesus and that stuff, but he can connect to other types of spirituality, and I'll talk to him about stuff. And like when I got more into astrology, I'll talk to him, like I'll be like, oh, the moon's full, and we'll talk about that stuff. I mean, he'll be like, I saw God. Like, he's been telling me that when I was a kid, and I'm like, you're crazy. He'll be like, God said this and that and that. Oh, my God, I want to talk to him. I know. He's very interesting. What did God tell him? Well, he has a story of, like, when he became religious, is he was, like, in a landslide or something, and his arm got dislocated, and then God, like, spoke to him and said, your life is a filament, like, inside of a light bulb, the filament, you know? So basically he was saying like your life is fragile and you need to kind of get your shit together. That's how my dad took it. And that's when he became religious. But he told me things throughout the year. Like once he told me to be a steward of my beauty, and I was really mad because I think he was telling me not to have sex with hoes, basically. But so your dad sounds trippy. He speaks like that for real? Yeah, he like doesn't say much, but when he says stuff, it's always like he's so philosophical. Like he started texting. He's not really a phone guy. Philosophical. He'll text me weird stuff all the time, like poetic, like be a steward of your beauty. I know. I don't even know what that means. I think he didn't like my boyfriend at the time, and he was basically something like that. What does that word mean, a steward? A steward, it's like being a steward of your money is kind of taking care of it, like being frugal, like using it wisely. Take care of your beauty. Something like that. God, that's freaking. I know. I still remember it. This was a long time ago. Yeah. So. Dad, that's good. I know. I definitely connect to it more now that I've grown up. So the filament thing, that's interesting too. Yeah. So, did he like elaborate more on that? Or is it like all you caught of it? Yeah. You're like, whatever, Dad. I mean, what do you mean elaborate on what? Well, like, so if you look at the brain, they say that Christ consciousness. So Jesus was a real person, according to what I've read. According to my understanding of it, he was a real person, but he reached a state of consciousness called Christ consciousness. So it's basically where he had both sides of the brain, both hemispheres of the brain, working coherently, to where they created a spark across the hemispheres in the corpus callosum, which is the part that connects the two hemispheres of the brain. So it's kind of crazy that you say that, because that would technically be the filament in the light bulb. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I'll have to have you say that again, because I'm like, I wonder if my dad's familiar. Well, we recorded it. So. Oh, that's... You got me. No, I would be interested to hear what your dad says about that, because that's a very, that's cool. Yeah, that's where it comes in. That's why, like, when I'm so interested in these like different subjects, I am, because they all they cross each other. And I think a lot of people that specialize, like being a specialist is one thing if you're like going to work in that field at the highest level. But I think that a broad understanding of knowledge is way better, because you can connect the dots.
So where a specialist can't connect the dots in other fields because they had no clue about them, I want to learn everything. That way I can go, okay, well, this is how these are related.
It's amazing because, you know, I kind of grew up being like, oh, I don't have any special interests. I'm not good at anything particular, but I have a lot of different interests. And it feels frustrating when you're like, I need a major or a job or whatever. But then the more you just kind of follow what interests you, you see how everything connects. You can read a book about some guy in history like thousands of years ago, and it will connect to like someone you ran into, or and I feel like those dots connecting is where everything comes together in a weird way.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about comedians. They give you a different way to look at things.
Yeah.
That's another reason I like them, because, you know, all these comedians that get on stage, a lot of times they say this shit, and I'm like, fuck, I never thought about that. But it's just a different way to look at certain subjects. I think one of the big things, too, that you touched on there was the fact that society tells you to get a major and to go into a field and to specialize. But there are certain people that just can't do that. Like for me, I did all that. I did what I was told to do. I got my degree. It's in IT. After I graduated, I started working in IT, and I was doing 9 to 5, and I was like, I can't fucking do this. I was like, if I sit here, because I was literally sitting behind a desk all day long with nothing to do. And like that doesn't do good for a mind that needs to like be doing something always. I was like, if I do this for another year, I'm gonna fucking blow my brains out. I have to get out of here. And whenever I quit my job, my parents were like, "What are you doing? Like, are you crazy? Like you don't quit your job when you get a good job." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go back and work in restaurants. I don't know what to tell you, but that job satisfies me in a way that like sitting behind a desk getting paid a lot of money doesn't. Like it's something about like moving and like stimulating my mind that I need. I crave that.
Engaging with people. Yeah, and then if you feel like you can't be yourself and like express yourself, that's just that'll like break your spirit. And I've kind of been trying to learn to remember like my worth is in me, not like in the job that I have. Kind of like, oh, if I don't have this job, I can get another one, or I can do something else, because like we are where the worth is at. Our identity doesn't lie in our title or.
That's one good thing that I think that that the COVID quarantine and stuff brought about in people was the fact that they have that mentality now. I've heard a lot more people say that now than I did before. Like before they were like, oh, well, you know, I have to go to work. And it's like, yeah, but you can work somewhere that appreciates you. You know, you don't have to work at a place. And like the other day I was in Restaurant Depot getting supplies for the bar. And the lady that was behind the cash register, fucking boss-ass woman, she was like, I don't give a shit. She's like, I'll fucking quit this job. It's not the last fucking job in the world. And I was like, that's the attitude to have right there.
It's not.
Yeah.
And they'll make you think it is.
I don't even know what she was talking about. But I was like, that's the fucking attitude to have. She might be like, I fucking killed somebody in the parking lot. I'll fucking quit this bitch. And I was like, yeah, it's right. You get him, girl.
Yeah. Quit your jobs. I mean, now people are starting to realize that, or employers, I guess. But like people talk about work-life balance. It's like work. Like if you're working, that is your life. It's not like you have two separate things. If you hate your work, then you're working a certain amount of hours, and that's your life. Yeah,
when there's no reason for an employer to act that way to his employees either. Like if the way like you should be friends with them. Like there doesn't have to be an authoritarian feel. That's I've learned a lot about that when I started managing this place, because I want to be friends with the employees, and I tell them that too from day one. I'm like, look, we're in this together. I was like, you guys are just as much a part of this business as I am. I was like, so whatever you need from me, let me know. But I'm not going to look over your shoulder constantly. You're an adult. I think you can do this job on your own. And you'd be surprised. Like, there are some people that take that information and they fucking run with it. And they just excel like crazy. But there are also some people that I've found that they need that structure. And I think the reason they think they need it is because they never broke out of that mindset of like going exploring. So like us leaving our hometowns, like that put us in a different mindset where you're like, this isn't the last fucking job I'll ever have. You know, I can go like do whatever I want to. But there are some people that are like, they're still in that mindset, even if they're, you know, I guess they never escaped.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't see outside of it. And it's like sometimes when the worst thing ever happens to you and then you look back on it in 4 months and you're like, that's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But I mean, I'll still like in my present problems or whatever, I'm just like, oh, this is so frustrating and I'll be really upset. And I'm like, try to remember that it's not.
That's one of the things that meditation gave me.
Yeah, it can help with that.
Yeah, because I mean, having a problem used to be like the end of the world too. Mm-hmm. But since I like meditate regularly now, one of the things they say when you meditate is you connect with your higher self. Mm-hmm. And when you connect with your higher self, it's on like a different dimensional plane where time doesn't exist. So this like entity, if you have a problem in your life and you can connect this entity, it's going to reassure you that that's not a problem. And if you have a question that you need to answer to, it doesn't have to think through the problem because time doesn't exist there. So the reason we have to think through problems and like make decisions is because time exists on this plane. But if you can connect with that entity, it'll steer you in the right direction always.
That makes so much sense. I've never heard it explained that way, like intuition or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that makes sense because a lot of times I'll just ask myself a question that I've been thinking about forever, and I'll just ask it out loud and I'll just say the answer. Yeah. And I'll just know it. Or I'll meditate and I'll get intuitive like words. Yeah. And that makes sense. It doesn't have the time. And it's like one of those things you just have to trust it. You're like, no, that doesn't make sense. I don't see how that's going to work. But then every time I listen to it, it's always right. Yeah,
like you said, when you look back on it in 6 months, that's where regret comes in, is people don't follow their intuition and they're like, fuck, why didn't I listen to myself?
I knew I should have. Yeah. Yeah. Do you do like visualization meditation, or does that kind of happen naturally at all while you're doing it?
What does that mean?
Like, I mean, I've done like led meditations where they kind of lead you on where like now you're in this fountain and then you might see something, or now you're like seeing your child self or something like that.
So I did one of those one time, and I think they called it a regression. Mm-hmm. And that was the first thing I ever did. And I wasn't even, I guess you would consider it more of like the Nidra thing, because I was like almost in a sleep state. Mm-hmm. I laid down on the bed and relaxed, and this like thing was just talking to my ear. And it basically put me in the scenario. And then I spoke. That was the first time I ever spoke to my higher self. Was in that scenario. Did you have an image of your higher self? Yeah, it's crazy. So all growing up, when we played video games and stuff with my buddies, I would always make this character that looked like fucking weird. Most people make their avatars look weird, mm-hmm. but it was the same thing all the time. And my buddies, they would make humans, and I would make this like other character. And they were like, "Why do you always like make him look like that?" And I was like, "I don't fucking know. It looks cool." So the day that I had that regression, I fucking walked up to the guy that I was always playing video games, and someone could make the argument that I created that with my mind because I've been creating it the whole time. But why was that character in there in the first place? Yeah. Where did it come from?
And if you weren't thinking of it while you were meditating, if you weren't like, my avatar, then it's like it came out of your memory or came from somewhere.
Yeah, and so that's what the guy was saying. He said in the regression, he's like, you're on like the planet that you came from before here, and you're walking into your favorite place. And for me, that was like this like waterfall.
Oh, that's cool.
There was a waterfall there, and there was like all these like very vibrant colored plants, and there was like it's a very lush like jungle type situation. So you walk up to the waterfall, your favorite place. For me, it's waterfall. And he's like, okay, now you turn around, and when you turn around, you see yourself. Which higher self, but he said you see yourself as you used to be on this other planet. So when I turned around, I saw that character. And I remember we had a conversation, but I couldn't remember anything that we said. So I remember seeing this entity, and then nothing. Then I woke up like 2 hours later, because I actually did fall asleep. Woke up like 2 hours later, the regression thing was off, and I didn't remember anything. But I felt at ease. Mm-hmm. It was almost like whatever that was, put me at ease.
I think like relaxation, I'm starting to learn, is a goal, because like when we are relaxed, we can make better decisions. Mm-hmm. And so if meditation does nothing but make you relaxed, then it's like a success.
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. Because you're not making clear decisions whenever your nervous system's going crazy. Yeah.
I think for me, and I think a lot of people, like COVID and all that stress that brought, made me be like in chronic stress all the time. Mm-hmm. And then I've had like way more anxiety and like depression and phobias come up. But I was talking to my new therapist, who's really cool, and she was saying like our brains have pathways, and it's kind of like if you're walking through the brush and you've walked on this path a bunch, it's going to be easier to walk on.
Myelination.
Is that what it's called?
Myelination? Well, myelination is why that pathway is that way, because it's like a fat deposit that gets on the nerve cells.
Oh my god, that's even deeper.
Yeah.
Myelinate. Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, but go ahead. The pathway.
Yeah, so she's like, basically your brain has been building these fear-based pathways where you go to, the fearful outcomes. And so, but we can retrain our brains to go into calming pathways, or like good things can happen. So she's basically like, we need to practice for you to relax and calm down, and that's going to help you solve your other problems. And at first I was like, that doesn't make sense. I need to focus on this problem. I need to fix the problem. She's like, no, you just need to calm down. But now I'm getting it, piece by piece. And I just really liked that image. And now the image that you told me is even more interesting. Further.
It's, I looked it up because I have ADD, obviously. Unmedicated ADD. I never wanted to take the medications, and a lot of that was because my parents didn't want me to take medication. We don't want to do that in this household. Yeah. So I learned how to deal with myself. I learned how, instead of just depending on this medication, like I think a lot of kids do from day one, I was like, no, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to learn my body and figure out why it's doing what it's doing. So one of the things I stumbled across was the fact that there are some people that don't create myelination of the nerve cells the way that that normal people do. So when you think about this world like it's a matrix, okay, you wake up every day and you go to your job. You're basically getting a routine, right? That's what we call it, a routine. But you do the same thing 5 days a week. That's their routine they get into. And if you think about Westworld, you seen Westworld?
No.
Okay, so in Westworld, this is going to be spoilers, but in Westworld there are these robots that live in a theme park. And they go in these loops every day. So basically they have their own routines. Mm-hmm. And as the humans go into the park, they can interject into these routines. And when they do, the robot goes on different paths with the humans. So humans are the same. They work the same way. It's like they get in these paths in life, so loops that they're on. And the more they do that loop over and over again. So if you're working a job for 30 years, you're spending 30 years depositing fat on those nerve cells, so you're building that loop, which is kind of like a prison for you because it's hard to get out of that loop once you get in it. Mm-hmm. So you can do that with anything. The same way she was saying with the anxiety and stuff. You're basically, so the way the body works is it's trying to optimize all the time. So if you're doing something over and over again, your body is going to lay down that fat deposit because it works like wires. So if you take a wire and you insulate it, then the wire moves more efficiently. Mm-hmm. The electricity does through the wire. So it's the same way on your nerve cells. So when you insulate it with fat deposits, the electrical signals move more efficiently through the body. Therefore, it's optimizing itself. So the thing that ADD comes into play, ADHD, the body doesn't put myelination down as quick as another body does. So it's hard for them to entrain those loops into themselves, and it's hard to focus. Mm-hmm. Because your electrical signals are always going everywhere. They're bouncing everywhere instead of just going to the location. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a good thing too, because in our society where most people are entrained to get in these loops and not jump out of the loop. Same thing with religion. They go to their church every Sunday and they learn this one way, and it's hard for them to break outside of the box. Mm-hmm. But if you get someone like me who you just doesn't stay in the fucking box. There's no box for me to get into because the brain doesn't work the same way. Then I can explore very abstract thoughts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like ADHD, a lot of people are creative and thinking you're open to a lot more things. And it's things that we say this is bad, but it's maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't fit into the little 9-to-5 classroom culture. Yeah. Because, I think that's what a lot of the reason a lot of us suffer. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could be happy if I can design my world better, which I'm trying to.
Oh, my God. But you said a mouthful right there. There are people out there that can literally optimize this world. We can make it function better for everyone, but those that are in control, they don't want it to function better because they like to keep people trapped in the system.
It's intentional.
Yeah, my entire life growing up, when it comes to standing in lines and shit like that, I'm like, why are we sending, why does the DMV take fucking 10 hours to get to the DMV? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a better way to, like, do this. You know, we can do it online, or you can go in and, like, have more employees that work faster. I don't know. There's all kinds of solutions you could have to these problems, but everyone's just like, oh, I got to go to the DMV. I'm going to take my book and read my book all day.
Yeah. It just sucks.
Dude, I went to the DMV in Metairie when I first got to New Orleans. I took a book in there with me. I was there for 8 fucking hours. I was one of the first ones there. There was already a line outside the door because, like, there were people there. I was the last one that went through the line, and I was there for 8 hours. They were closed while I was there. There were people that were there all fucking day and then had to leave and go home and come back the next day.
That's absurd. That's insane.
Yeah, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's when we started realizing stuff's intentional, like healthcare, poverty.
Oh, it's insane.
All of that. They just want there to be like this.
That's just a system
separation.
it's a dependent system. Like, they want to, like, give you a pill, and then when that fucks your body up this way, then you can take this other pill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to string you along for 70 years, and then you're going to die, and we're going to charge you to get put in the ground.
Yep. And yeah, very, like, treatment-based instead of cure-based, right? Is that... Yeah, that's why it's frustrating. Obviously, doctors know stuff, but also there's other ways of...
I'm enjoying this conversation too much, but there's other people that are outside that are waiting on the next podcast.
Oh, are they waiting for us? Okay.
So how can everyone find you on social medias? And do you have any, like, shows and stuff coming up that you're going to promote?
Okay, yeah. My Instagram's Heidi, ho, with a 0 is the last O. And I do have a show coming up on Saturday at Comedy House. And
Saturday, the what day? Because I don't know if this will be released yet. But.
What's this? The 30th, April 30th.
Okay.
Then one at the end of May in Jinx. We'll see.
I'll try to knock it out. I'll try to knock it this week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. But anyways, it's been super fun.
Yeah, I love it. I got to have you on again because, I mean, this conversation was very stimulating.
I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, that was great. And your dad, too. Like, I want to hear more about this man.
Let's call him up.
Oh, we can call him up next time. Yeah, that's a great idea. Heidi, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.